What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning back into the Blakebuilds YouTube channel. Today I'm at Synchro Design Works and Synchro Car Care in Marietta, Georgia. They've graciously let me use their lift today to check out all the damage I did, or check out the underside of my E92 drift car. And if you haven't seen my E92 drift car, go back through the channel, check it out. I've literally posted every single thing I did to the E92, from being a bare frame all the way up to what I consider a pro Formula Drift car. So these guys have very, very high quality bearings and bushings for BMWs. They make the trailing arm bushings for your E36. They make the control arm bushings for your E90s and E92s. And the quality is out of this world. I mean, he's really put a lot of thought into how these bushings are made and the materials that they're made from. And overall, they're really beautiful. They'll even rent you the tool to install them. So if you buy these bushings on their website, you can actually, either call them up or request that you rent the tool from them. They send you it for free. You just put the deposit down. It's $120, $5 to ship it back, but you'll have a perfect install of your new spherical bearings. No chance of crushing the center of them, no chance of hurting them. And that's really cool of a company to do. You don't usually see that type of thought and care and consideration put into actually installing the bushings, not just selling them to you. This is the regular R-tab bushing, so it's not offset, but even just pushing on it like this, I can feel how smooth this actually operates. I've had a lot of different spherical bushings in the past, and this is, you can kind of just feel the quality, and you can see the knurling on the side to get a nice press fit in, and just a beautifully made bearing. They've also got these kind of offset ones specifically for drifting to get toe in. So if you have a drift car, an E36 drift car, these allow you to get the toe in without having those super elongated hole brackets. These allow you to get the toe in that you need to get more forward bite. But also if you have a super low E36 on bags or something like that, and you basically just need it to drive right because you've lowered it so much, these also help with that as well. This is an unsealed version here for kind of the race car guys. They have sealed versions as well for the street car guys. They'll last a long time. He was just telling me 7 years these have been in cars, so they've been producing these 7 years and making the design better and better over the years. But I've never seen a bushing that looks this nice. So today I have my car up on the lift here. I wanted to talk about what things I would have done differently when I built this car. So I did all the research I could. I checked out everything I could. I thought I made the best decisions that I had the knowledge to make when I built this car. And already it feels 1,000 times better than my E36 ever did. 1,000 times cleaner than my E36 ever was. And I really loved my E36. I also put a lot of time and effort into the E36. But experience actually rules all. So now that I've had the experience of the E36, I was able to make those things better on the E92. And I wanted to show you guys what I did differently than most guys do in drift cars on the E92, and also what I would do differently from the E92 if I were to do it again. So you can actually learn from the mistakes that I made when I thought I was not going to make any mistakes. So guys, I think this is actually the first time that you've seen the underside of the E92. I built this whole thing in my garage on the ground, and I think this might actually be the first time it's ever been on a lift. So if we look under here, we can actually check out, the whole underside of it. You can see, I think I did an all right job. I mean, it's pretty clean under here. It's not too crowded. You can see these are actually the headers right here for the turbo. Take a look here. We got my fuel lines all running down here. Not as organized as I'd like them to be. The power steering lines are right next to them, going to a power steering cooler here, and up to the power steering cooler, which is way up there. So this is one thing that I tried to do that I don't see many people doing, or at least not many people explaining. This power steering pump up here is a Mini Cooper power steering pump. It's from an old Mini Cooper. I can't remember the years, maybe 2000 to 2004, something like that. But it has very high pressure output. And the reason I did a Mini Cooper pump was because the BMW power steering racks actually need higher pressure. So the LS1 power steering pumps don't put out enough pressure. Also, when I was using an LS1 power steering pump on the E36, I would boil the fluid all the time. So I decided to do an electric power steering pump. A lot of people don't like electric pumps. They don't like how they feel. I'm getting used to it. I can see what they're talking about. It does feel quite a bit different from a mechanical pump, But I'm getting used to it. It seems to work okay. I'm still fighting some teething issues on the car, so that might have to do with why the steering feels a little strange. But I don't mind it so far. One thing that I don't like about it is it pulls 80 amps of current. 80 amps of current, guys. That's a lot. If you consider most alternators put out like 90 to 100 amps, that's like 90%, 80 to 90% of the alternator output. So if you're going to do something like that, you know, you should consider that and get a high output alternator to compensate, because just my power steering pump and my fans, that's 160 amps. So that's a lot of current just from those two devices. That doesn't count anything else. And the reason I remote mounted it in the first place was A, to get it out of the engine bay, get the weight where I wanted it in the back of the car, and also to reduce the amount of accessories dragging on the engine. So you've heard of a lot of LS guys kind of throwing belts at the track or having their accessories misaligned and things like that. My belt is just the alternator and the crank, so no weird harmonics, no throwing belts, no tensioner even. Very, very easy, and that's because I moved the water pump and the electric power steering pump to the back. This pump here also needs a 12-volt signal, a ground, and a 12-volt pulsed signal to turn on. And the way I did that was I wired the 12-volt signal to ignition, and the 12-volt pulse signal is actually to my starter switch, so my momentary starter switch. That cranks this thing on, so if you were to turn the car off without turning the ignition off, then you would send that pulse again and it would try to restart while it's already running. So that's just one thing you got to be careful of with these pumps. You can see I got it right out of a junkyard. Also, you can see my water pumps back here too. This is basically stole this idea straight from Dylan Hughes. I think he also mounted his water pump in the exact same spot. Makes it really easy to get to. They don't usually fail, but it's a good spot for a remote mount, and in the back where I want the weight. So moving on, this car is a LS turbo at the front. So we got the LS here. We've got the turbocharger up there-ish somewhere. You can kind of see the flange. And it's mated to a kind of a NASCAR dog box. It's a G-Force GSR that I got straight from RTS. All the way down to a Winters quick change differential, which I also bought straight from RTS. So really got the right parts underneath it. And they really sound crazy because it's all straight cut gears. If you look back at my videos, you'll see I actually made this subframe to fit this differential. And the reason I made it is because they're very expensive, but there are some benefits to buying it instead of making it. Like A, you don't have to waste all your time making it. B, they're very expensive though. So I ended up making it. Some things I wish I did a little bit differently. It's pretty high, so you can see, if we can get up here, you can see it's almost touching this plate here. I mean, less than a 1/16 of an inch between the top of the diff and the plate here. But it's not high enough. So I wish I mounted it higher, maybe 1 inch to 1.5 inches higher than it is mounted now. I didn't have to cut this portion of the subframe out. But if you see all the new subframes, they're mounting this like super high. I think everybody except Sicky is mounting this super high up now. And that's just so it's not dragging on the ground. It's not the lowest thing in the back here. But it would be nice to get that a little higher. Another thing I wish I didn't do was I wish I didn't prioritize having a full rear windscreen and just putting these little vents in here. So I got this vent here and this vent here. But actually this is all just a full windscreen. But I don't think these vents are enough to pull air in to the radiator, honestly guys. I wanted a full rear windscreen. I love how it looks when you look through the windscreen, kind of F40-ish if this was an engine, but it's not an engine, it's just other mechanical parts. But I don't think this is very useful. And actually when I've gone to the track, I've actually taken the windscreen off completely. I haven't even chanced having the windscreen on and overheating. And if we look back here, you know, nothing is shrouded between the radiator and the back. So I kind of wish I made some shrouds here to pull air in from here and then made it kind of a big open rear window area to actually pull the air through these fans and not just have the hot air come out of these fans, go around the front and back into the radiator, because it starts circulating that way and then it overheats. So it really should be shrouded, and I should have a nice duct going up through the rear window, or at least a window that's open, like with a big hole in the center. I might even cut a big hole in the center here. Let's talk about this gas door filler in the middle of my windshield, in the middle of the car. This is the radium fuel cell with a radium remote mount fill. And the reason I put it there was I thought, you know, we'd be able to fill it from any side of the car, right? We can fill it from here, 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 you know, all the way around the back here. And I thought, you know, I'd get those fuel cell jugs that you press down and they open, so that we could just like rest it here and the weight would push it down and the fuel would go in the tank. That's actually not the case. That's not what happens. The radium remote fill neck is too shallow to accept the full nozzle and open it. So when you put it up there, it doesn't open and it hits the bottom before it could even open if it wanted to. So that didn't work at all. I actually ended up buying a battery powered kind of pump that I put on the top of my fuel jugs, and it literally just pumps it in so we don't have to hold it there in the middle of the car. It does work okay. It actually works really, really well, but those pumps are like $100 a piece, and it's just not something I considered. If I were to do it again, I would probably put it in a more reasonable spot where we could just hold a regular fuel jug. And if you guys are part of the Drift Car Builders Facebook group and saw my posts when I was doing this and how I didn't want to put it in the window and I didn't want to put it offset or outside, I'll give it to you guys. You were right on this one. I should have put it in the window or done it a regular, normal way and not try to do something new. But it does look really cool. The thing I wanted to talk about was how overly complicated I made my cooling system. So if we go back to the trunk here, you know, I have two -20s coming out of the radiator and two -6s coming out of the radiator. So if we look, we got the -6 right on top here, the -20 underneath, and there's complementing -6 and -20 all the way down there. And they come over and they go up. The two -6s go up to a swirl pot and an overflow tank, and the -20s go down into the engine. The -20s, you can see, come out of the radiator here. I got a dirty windshield, guys. Come out of the radiator here, go through the firewall down there. Actually, they're routed underneath the cool shirt cooler. You can kind of see that piece of aluminum, and there's a little tunnel. They go underneath the rear seat there. They come out here on this bulkhead. The two -20s go through the inside of the car and all the way to another bulkhead right there. Inside there, there's the two -20s split into 4 -12s and 1 -4. The 4 -12s get bulkheaded in the transmission tunnel and the firewall, and the -6 gets bulkheaded up at the top of the firewall here because it's specifically to connect to the steam ports. Oh, we gotta get a light, guys. Where'd I put the light? Where'd I put the light? You know, I put things down and then I pick them back up again. But I put things down and I have to find them before I can pick them back up again. I was just holding it. You guys saw me. I just had it, right? Oh, here it is. Here it is. I put it over here. Look. And now we got a light. So you can see the -6 comes out of there. I got a bleeder up top there because it's the highest point in the system up front, and it goes straight to the steam ports. Then all those -12s come around the headers here and into the front of the block. This is a pretty normal system, especially for drag guys. So the reason I don't like it so much is that there are so many fittings. There's so many fittings, guys. Any of those fittings can leak. You know, I wish I just did two -20s straight into some better, I don't know, some better water pump delete. I think some companies make -16s or -20s coming out. And I wish it was just one tube for in and one tube for out, all the way to the back of the car, because there's no fittings to leak. It was so outrageously expensive to build the cooling system this way. It doesn't look that cool, and it's, you know, just could be more problems than it's worth. It hasn't been yet. Bleeding it is pretty difficult, but we'll see how that works. One of the other things I wanted to talk about was my engine plate. So this is something that not a lot of drift guys do. You see more of it recently, but this engine is held in with just this plate right here. You can see it. Oh, I'm stuck on something. Right here. And it bolts across the front of the engine. And I literally just made things for it to bolt to on the frame rails. So if you have like an old car, like maybe an old Datsun or something that you're trying to put an LS in, and they don't make a swap kit for it, you can actually use this motor plate to put an LS in anything. And really they make mid plates too. So back here there would be a mid plate But I didn't opt for a mid plate. I opted for a transmission mount because the mid plate would change the length of the input shaft on the transmission, and I didn't want to have to get a custom input shaft or anything like that. So I just used this motor plate and a transmission mount. And when I take the transmission off, the motor just kind of like rests on the subframe, and it's not even attached to the subframe. So I can take the subframe off without taking the motor out or supporting the motor or anything like that. Remote mounting everything, you know, even though it took a lot off the accessories, it made for so much plumbing. I mean, this is all functional plumbing, but still there's so many AN lines and so much plumbing in here. I'm not too pleased with how it looks. I wish it was cleaner, but you know, all this stuff works like it's supposed to, and I was able to get the accessories out back. On the inside here, we got the AAM digital data logger dash. It's a CD7. You can see the shifter for the GSR dog box, ASD handbrake, Cobra seat. Hopefully soon I'll have a passenger seat, but pretty barren in here. I mean, everything's basically hidden behind that box with the X on it over there, which is where my AccuSump and my ECU and a lot of wiring is. So you guys can see, with all the thinking and planning I did for this build, there's still a lot of things I wish I did better. And I think that's probably true for any build. I did do it a lot better than my E36, but there's still a lot of things I think I could have done better. And one of the most important things, I haven't even touched on it, I almost forgot. One of the most important things, or one of the biggest problems I made, was where I mounted the fuel cell. One thing I like, since this windshield is not very useful, is I put it on quick releases. Kind of hard to look through the camera and actually get the screwdriver in them. Oh boy. Alright, so we're looking in here and we have this catch can. This catch can's not hooked up to anything. Why is this catch can not hooked up to anything? That's because I mounted my fuel cell too low. If you remember, I showed you how close my differential was to that plate underneath my car. Right on top of that plate is where my fuel cell is. And I thought it'd be a great place to mount it. I thought I was gonna have plenty of room, and I did. The differential's there. It's very close to the plate. The fuel cell's right on top, but there's not enough room to put a breather tube. There's no breather on my differential, guys. And that's because there's no room to put it underneath the fuel cell, because the fuel cell is literally sitting on top of the differential. So this is one major problem I wish I didn't do. I should have raised this fuel cell up, because there's no space there. And if I raised it up just like 1 inch or 1.5 inches, I'd have enough room to run a breather out of the differential and to this catch can, which is what it's there for. Right next to it, this is the power steering reservoir, so that feeds the pump down below. But yeah, there's no room. So I got to eventually cut these bars out and just raise my fuel cell like 1 inch so that I have enough room to run a breather. Definitely a major problem that I did not think about. I know I keep talking about things I did wrong or things that I wish I did differently. There are a lot of good things about this car too. It works really, really well. It feels really, really good. It's planted, it's settled, it's solid. It does feel a lot heavier than the E36, and really it feels slower, but it looks a lot faster on track, so I think that's a good thing. It's been really nice to drive, honestly. A couple small teething issues we're still going through, but really nice to drive. And after saying that, there is one more thing I wish I did differently. I did not leave enough room for an air filter. I don't think there's an air filter on the market that will fit on this turbo sitting where this is. So I'd have to make some crazy 5-inch turning tube here or something to get a filter on. And you can see this little cage thing is right next to my wastegate dump, which, actually looking at it, this used to have heat wrap on it. That one has heat wrap on it still. But I guess the heat wrap on this side decided to exit the building. It's just like hot air coming right off my wastegate dump straight into my turbo, so that's not good. My air cooler's not that great. So here at Synchro Design Works, they build a lot of differentials, and this E30 here with an LS in it actually just got one of their differentials built, so we'll see what he got.
Yeah, hey guys, so we went from like a 343 rear end, whatever was the factory LSD in the M3s. It was originally welded, so it was kind of like a drift build. And now that I'm road tracking it, we went with a 4-clutch 293, so I actually went the other way in gearing. Because with the LS, I wanted to run out the RPMs a little longer and be more competitive with the GT cars, just because I was getting too much torque out of the corners. So right now, going with a 4 clutch, 293 gearing, and 1.5 way. So we're gonna get some
4 clutch.
Yeah, so we're gonna get some pressure on both the ins and outs of the corners and downshifts.
Very nice.
The other thing that Synchro did for me was we did a booster delete kit, and we went dual master cylinders for front and rear, and then I think a 3/4 inch front and a 7/8 rear. Yep, and then put in a bias adjuster in the cabin for me.
You don't hear E32 sound like that very often. So these guys also have a bridge port, and they were nice enough to mill down my slave cylinder. So in my transmission, there's a Tilton 4-post slave cylinder that bolts into the bell housing. And since I'm using a twin disc clutch, I had to actually mill the back of the legs down to get the right air gap between the slave cylinder and the pressure plate. So these guys actually milled it down right here. And it's pretty tough to find people that can do this type of work. So it's nice to know that they can do it, you know, close to my house in Marietta. And yeah, it's been working great. We got Tom's bus here. Wait a second. Wait a second, this is bringing me back. I'm getting some feels about this thing. Oh boy, no, we can't look at it, we can't look at it. We gotta focus on the future. We gotta focus on what's ahead. It's over here. This is the future. E36s are the past. This is the future. So big thanks to David Green, the owner here at Synchro Car Care, Synchro Design Works. Get on their website, check out their trailing arm and control arm bushings. Also, if you're local, you need some European car work done, make sure you check these guys out. Super level-headed, super nice guys. I really appreciate them letting me come in, use their lift today, and make this video for y'all. So check them out. Thanks for watching this episode. We're kind of coming out with these kind of periodically, so look forward to the next episode, and I'll catch you then. Thanks a lot. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, don't say anything. Comment down below. Tell me what you think. I'll see you guys later.